Alright, so it's 11:45 at night. Why am I making a video? Well, the reason why is that, like everyone else in America who is fortunate enough to still have a job and not be required to go out and work in public, I'm working from home. And working from home, I need something to help separate my home life from my work life. And I think that one of the things that I can do that can help me do that is make videos. So I'm going to start doing these maybe nightly quarantine diaries. And for this first quarantine diary, I think I'm going to do something that I saw a creator that my wife watches do. She made a video where she listed every job that she's ever had and talked a little bit about each of them. Now that video went on forever, and I don't want to have this do that. So I'm going to try to do every job that I've ever had and how it ended in 10 minutes. All right, so here we go. Job number 1, 1993, summer after my freshman year, I had a landscaping job at University Center at Tulsa. And what that job required me to do was go around and water a bunch of plants. It allowed me access through the library to the internet. And it was a version of the internet that you would not recognize today because the World Wide Web was only a tiny part of the internet then. How did that job end? I got harassed by a bird and it changed my relationship with birds entirely, and it made me too anxious to return to work. Job number 2, 1996. I had a 3-year gap. Learning Enhancement Center at Oklahoma City University. I went to OCU before I went to University of Oklahoma. And in that job, I was an English tutor. And again, it was another job that provided me access to the internet. Again, the World Wide Web was not really a part of our internet browsing because these computers in the LEC were monochrome terminals, basically, through which we had access to things like email and news groups. How'd that job end? My freshman year ended, and so did my work study. Job number 3, a call center for AOL. I worked in member saves, and it was the worst member saves queue to work in because we were doing member saves for Canada, and Canada did not have unlimited access for a flat rate. Instead, because of local telecommunication laws, they had hourly billing, and many of the people who signed up didn't know that, and they called us very angry. How did I leave that job? My entire queue basically was fired in one day. We were kind of fired by an instant message, actually. I would see an instant message pop up on somebody's screen. They would leave their computer, go into an office, and then pack up all their stuff and leave. And I just watched it work its way up the line to me. One thing I loved about that job, access to the internet. I had free AOL for the duration of my time there. Job number 4, starting in 1998, a little bit of 1999, I did telephone polling for Cole, Hargraves, and Snodgrass, which is a company that was partially owned by Tom Cole, who was I believe, a senator from Oklahoma. I was not politically educated enough to realize when I started the job that I was doing push polling. In fact, I think when we started, we weren't doing push polling, but as time went on, I started to realize that our polls that we were conducting were a little more suggestive than a normal poll should be. And they were suggesting some pretty awful things. It was a fun job, though, because this was during the Bill Clinton's troubles with Monica Lewinsky, and everybody wanted to talk to you about Bill Clinton, no matter what the poll was about. How did that job end? I just got to the point where my conscience couldn't take the work that I was doing, so I quit. Next job, 2000, working at J-Pat's, which was a restaurant in Norman, where I was going to college, University of Oklahoma. I worked mainly just the lunch shift, and I made just enough money to cover rent, and I would get free lunch. Free lunch was really the reason why I kept that job. I worked there until I got a job at Hollywood Video. So that's how that job ended, was me getting a job elsewhere. Next job, Hollywood Video. I worked there through 2000 and I guess the end of 2000. And that is when I got a job, a full-time job, and I left there because I got another job. Next job, 2001. This job was working for Sooner Information Network, which was a really cutting edge web portal that we were operating at the University of Oklahoma. I was producing multimedia and having some of the best creative partnerships that I've ever had with my friends, Vincent and Leachmo and Clark and Triple J. We made a lot of great videos, and we even made sort of like an early version of a podcast at one point. How did I leave that job? I left University of Oklahoma, 2001. Next job, summer of 2002. I've moved to LA. I'm working at the farmer's market in a flower shop. I'm learning how to do bouquets, and it's really cool. I'm dating Claire, who will go on to become my wife later, and at the time, whenever I make a cool bouquet, I will take a picture and send it to her. How did I leave that job? Against my will. The owners of the flower shop claimed that I had missed some shifts that I was scheduled for. This was a situation that my brother and I refer to as getting pencil whipped. This is when you look at the schedule and you realize it looks like there's been some erasing and some rewriting that's going on, and I, to this day, I really feel like I did not miss those shifts, but it is what it is. All right, next job, Blockbuster Video, Larchmont in Los Angeles. One of my favorite jobs ever, mainly because this was a Blockbuster Video into which a lot of celebrities came. That was kind of a fun scene to work in. How did that job end? I left Los Angeles. I transferred to a Blockbuster in New York. So next job, Blockbuster in New York. I worked at the Blockbuster at 125th and Amsterdam. This is the edge of Morningside Heights and Harlem. And how did that job end? Same situation as the flower shop. I was accused of missing some shifts. I probably did because I did not really enjoy that Blockbuster, to be honest. Next job, working at another video store, Kim's Video. Now, this was one of the coolest video stores I've ever worked at. It was one of those stores that specialized in high-end art films and porn. And just to give you an idea of the breadth of what Kim's had to offer, it was one of those really snobby video stores. We charged people a membership and only allowed them to have a few videos out at a time. How did that job end? I left New York. I moved to Oklahoma. Next job, Hollywood Video, 21st and Yale, I think. And I had a very short stint there. How did that job end? I left to go to Blockbuster Video. You may notice a theme is emerging. many video stores. How did that job end? I left to move back to Los Angeles. So my first job in Los Angeles was a Blockbuster Video because I transferred there. How did that job end? I got fired for blogging about Blockbuster. They called it corporate espionage. So my next job, Stupid Videos. I loved working at Stupid Videos. This was a job where my job was to look through the videos that were being uploaded and find the stuff that we could put on the homepage to try to basically have videos go viral. This is the start of my current career path, actually. How did I leave that job? The Great Recession is how I left that job. In 2009, in the summer, I got laid off because basically ad revenue had dried up as a result of the recession. Next job, I went to work for Break.com, doing the same kind of thing I did for Stupid Videos, but with a much bigger platform. And it was kind of a best of times, worst of times situation because I worked with some of the best people I've ever worked with there and had some of the most fun times that I've ever had at a job there. But I also had some of the worst times. How did I leave that job? Well, I left to go to YouTube Nation. So I left because I got another job. YouTube Nation. I was the senior curator for YouTube Nation. I worked with many of my heroes in the world of video. I was in charge of helping to find the interesting videos that we would highlight in the show. How did I leave that job? We got canceled. abruptly. I had no choice but to leave that job. So my next job was working as a temp for YouTube. And I did that job for 6 months and then I left. I went to the next job, Fusion. At Fusion, my title was Senior Curator, and I was helping to launch a comedy sub brand called F Comedy. Um, I was at that job for approximately 9 months. And how did I leave that job? This was probably like the most fortuitous departure ever. I found out that I had gotten my next job on the same day that we found out that F Comedy was basically dead, that everybody was getting laid off and moved around. But I, fortunately, moved to my next job, which is working for YouTube, which is what I do now. I study the cool things that people do on YouTube, the cool things people create, the cool things, the fun things that people watch, and I will have this job for as long as they will have me. So that's it. Let's see. I think this may have made it under the 10-minute mark. If not, I'll just edit it so that it does. So, tomorrow night, another quarantine diary. Don't know what it'll be yet. I'll figure it out. If you want to be aware, if you want to see that next video, subscribe. And I'm not going to ask you to hit the bell. Like, hitting the bell, that's a commitment. Subscribing, that's just like hanging out. Like, that's hitting the bell is like moving in, and you don't really need to know like every move that I make in the moment that I make it. You just want to be able to drop in and hang out and be like, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, hey, here's a video that lets you know how it's going. That's subscribing. So subscribe.